Hello, welcome to the Violet Fog As I Know It podcast. This is episode 4. I'm having a really good time with this because I feel like I am just hanging out with my buddies, and you get me as I start every episode. I'm very ADD. I just kind of like jump from point to point. It keeps it conversational and like just the most real. Today, we're going to be talking about health mistakes that I have made in the past. And trust me, it is a lot. I always say like people are always like, how are you so consistent with health and wellness? And it's because like I'm at a point where I have to be to even feel normal. I have to be very consistent. I mean, it is what fuels my obsession for learning, is because I have gone through much or so much. And I hope that today, like as I go through these health mistakes that I have made, and I promise you, they're not going to be ones that are just super generic. I'm really going to get granular with you without like extending it for like a super long period of time. Because I like to keep these things short. But we're going to go through them, and I just hope that you can like pick up on things that maybe hopefully like you won't do yourself. But also, I hope that you can also realize that like by the end of my list, you're going to be like, holy crap, that's a really long list. And yet this girl is still so hopeful in healing and believing in her body, and that I don't give up. I don't give up, and I do not want you to give up. So okay, let's start with for the first one. My first health mistake is that I stayed on pharmaceuticals for so long. um it makes me so sad when I like look back at my life, like 30 and under. Really, I really was just that kid that's like a pill for every ill. And I started my life on antibiotics, and then in my 20s, actually, like starting when I was like 16, I was on Adderall for 13 years. I was on antidepressants for 6 years. I had a small stint with sleeping pills. And so, like it's just like that's a lot. And I just want people to know, like, if you're on a pharmaceutical and you have not, like, I understand, I'm really glad that pharmaceuticals are there. Like, a lot of people do need them. I think a lot of them, though, should only be used for a very short period of time, if at all. And so for me, I'm just like, man, I wish so badly I had gotten to the root cause of my issues, which would have been true gut dysbiosis and gut issues. But I didn't. I would just like believe the doctors that I just needed to be on XYZ. And I stayed on them for so long. And this can be an issue because a lot of pharmaceuticals deplete your body of specific nutrients, or it can block receptors for certain nutrients, or it can make your neurotransmitters go haywire. That was the case for me. And my neurotransmitters were fried for so long after I got off Adderall. And at first I got off antidepressants and they were fried. And then I like did whatever I could, but I was still on Adderall. And then I got off Adderall, and I was just a mess after. And I just like, man, if I could go back and just talk to someone, if someone had just said, like, you need to get to the root cause of this. Hey, I think something could be going on with your gut. I just feel like I would have saved so much time and energy and just been at a better place way sooner off in life. So, if you feel like you're kind of like you have the claws of pharmaceuticals in you, like it's the best time to go and look for the root cause of what's going on. So that was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, not finding out my food intolerances until later. And I actually like figured that one out around 26, I'd say. And my real big allergy is dairy, and it's a true allergy for me. And so I used to get eczema all the time. And I would go to the doctor and they would tell me, like, it's just kind of like the deck of cards that are laid out in front of you. Like, you're just always going to kind of have to be dealing with eczema. Like, hopefully you can get a good lotion, and here's a steroid cream for you. And I would have flare ups that would last 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, it was awful. My hands would just be bleeding, cracked. I'd be in so much pain. It was horrible. And I never once had a doctor say, like, hey, you could have a trigger to some type of food. Like, and I was just like, I remember when I first started finally like researching, or I'm like, no, there has to be something. And I remember reading a blog, and it was like this girl talking about how she had eliminated dairy and her eczema got way better. And like, that was really cool to read her story. But what was even cooler was there was like 200 comments of people being like, I eliminated dairy and I started doing so much better with eczema. And so I remember reading this. I was very desperate. I had a horrible flare up. the beginning of a flare up. So I was like, I'm going to be in this for 6 to 8 weeks. And I was a big time dairy eater. Like, yeah, I would like get organic and low sugar, but I was eating yogurts and cheeses like all the time. And, maybe a little bit of like half and half. And so I eliminated dairy, like full stop, completely eliminated it. And my eczema went away in like, I think it was like 10 days, which was so quick for me then. And here's what like I think why people will hang on to certain foods. I think that they just don't think it has enough power over them. Like they just don't think that their condition can be tied to a specific kind of food. And that's not always the case. But like for me it is. And for a lot of cases it definitely is. And why I was like, and I remember just being like shocked, like, wow, it's dairy, And I think a lot of people think like, well, I have been eating XYZ for my entire life. And I have moments where I'm really, really good. And I have moments where I'm bad. So because I have moments that I'm good and I have this food, it must not be this food. But then they will take it out and then it'll be like a night and day difference. Or it'll be just like way longer stretches until they have a flare up of eczema, IBS, you name it. And so I just feel so bad for my body that I just like pounded dairy for so long. And that's a big problem because then my body has to always be on defense all the time. And you don't want your body to always be on defense on things that it shouldn't be interacting with. If in my case, that was dairy, because that is energy taken away from healing, energy taken away from growth. Like your body's not meant to be fighting foreign invaders all the time. Yeah, like there's things like environmental toxins, that's all the time, and our body is always at defense, but I think you know what I mean. Like it was unnecessary. I really wish I just would have figured that out so much sooner. So if you are dealing with a health issue, I would recommend like look up possible food triggers and just try an elimination diet. See if it makes a difference for you. I'm not saying it will, but what if it does? All right. Third thing. So I used to deal with big time acne when I was between the ages of like 9 and 15. And unfortunately, during that time, I saw a dermatologist and they would put me on so many antibiotics all the time. So I would take antibiotics. I also went on Accutane. And like, yes, Accutane very much worked for me. And I was like thankful in the moment because I was imagine being in middle school and like, or a freshman in high school and having like tons of acne. Like kids are not nice. So it helped my mental health for it to go away. But, just thinking of the damage that probably did to my gut or my liver, and I did not do anything to offset it. It's one thing to like take it, not do anything, or it's one thing to take it and do things alongside to help offset it. But it's another thing to take it and not do anything to offset it. I certainly did not. And so I just feel bad for myself as a kid that I didn't, I didn't know to look for the root cause of my acne. And oftentimes that can be liver issues, that can be hormones. And certainly I had those things going on. And so, instead I just went straight to pills to take care of it. And so if you do have acne, please work with someone that can get to the root cause of it, because I promise you it is not just like superficial on the skin type stuff. There's always something going on beneath. Oftentimes it is tied to the liver. Speaking of the liver, another mistake is that I wish I would have tested for the MTHFR gene variant or a mutation in that gene sooner. Because, but I also like don't blame myself. I didn't know it was so common, but this is very, very common. And just because it's common though, doesn't mean it can't be detrimental to your body, because it can be. And, I didn't really find out about my MTHFR gene until I was 30. And so I wish so badly I had known, because in my 20s, that means like all this time I went through and I was not detoxing that well. And imagine, all the pharmaceuticals, the antibiotics I was putting in my body. Oh my gosh, I didn't have access to a sauna. Like I didn't have detox really like as much on my mind. And I wish so badly I had known, because I think when you know, then you know to take care of your liver. You know to get methylated vitamins. You know to just detox more often. And so like had I known, I just wish so badly I would be on a liver support like sooner on in my life. Like that, I just think that would have made such a difference. And I feel like it's a perfect segue into the sponsor of this podcast, and that is MSW Nutrition. And it's the same product I mentioned last week, and that is Liver Love. I have taken it for a few years now. oh my gosh, how I wish I had discovered this sooner. It is a powerhouse for the liver. It has milk thistle, it has alpha lipoic acid, green tea extract, NAC. It has so many good things for the liver that I just wonder how much better would I have done had I had a really great liver support. That just would have made such a difference for me. And so if you are looking for a liver support that hits on all different kind of angles, I highly recommend Liver Love. You can use my code Violet Fog. It's MSW Nutrition. Check it out. Even if you just even if you just do like a couple bottles, it's really going to help you out. So I really recommend that, Liver Love. But yes, so that does tie into my, I just wish I would have tested for that sooner. I think everyone should test for that just because it is so common. Just see. All right, another health mistake that I made, laying out in the sun until I was 23. So I wasn't like an avid tanning bed person, but I did go in tanning beds like in high school. I probably went in a tanning bed maybe like 20 times, and like that makes me sick. And I did used to like lay out with no, no sunscreen. And I wish I feel like I still have like good skin right now, but like what would my skin look like had I not done that? I just don't think that sunbathing is a good thing. If you are someone who loves to like lay by the pool, I mean, I get that it's so good for like stress levels, and being in the sun is great. It's so important to get vitamin D. Do not get me wrong there, but sunbathing and actively just trying to get a deeper tan, no. The second you start to get tan, like your skin starts to change. That's your melanin skin receptor sites just starting to activate and go into defense mode. Something's already going wrong. It's, I know people don't like a fake tan, but get a fake tan. Just learn how to do it. It's so much better for you. And so I highly regret any times that I would lay out and tan. Like, for what? I don't care now that I was tan, in my teens, or my early 20s. Just if that is you, you just need to be careful. Skin cancer, please just be careful with sunscreen, all of that. So that was definitely, I just wish I would have not tanned until I was 23. And it's never too late, all right? It is never too late. Understand that. Okay, another health mistake, that I never found coping mechanisms for stress until basically this year. Honestly, I did not find coping mechanisms until this year. And yes, I would maybe write stories about really stressful things going on. I would express myself, but it would kind of stop at that. I never sought help on finding coping mechanisms. And here's why this is a health mistake, because we like to think that stress is just mental. We like to think that it doesn't go beyond that. If it does do anything with physical, maybe it's just going to disrupt our sleep, but that's it. I'm here to tell you that stress plays a huge role in the body. I just think of how stressed I have been going throughout life. I always say I'm a really laid back person, but I'm very cerebral, and I was very much held back by past traumas in my life, and I would just have trauma response after trauma response after trauma response and not even realizing it was a trauma response. So my body is just reliving this trauma all the time, and I didn't do anything about it. And so that what it ended up doing to me, I mean, my pituitary gland shot. I have a tumor on my pituitary gland, stress related. So I just want you to know, you need to find coping mechanisms. You need to find, you need to schedule it, whatever you got to do. But I truly believe it is even more important than exercise. You need to work on your stress levels. And I feel so sad for myself that I really did not start doing that until my tumor diagnosis. And I just think how much better off would I have been, healthier would I have been in my 20s had I just worked on my stress levels. And I don't care what age you are listening to this, this is your call to really start working on your stress. You got to work on that, because it can impact you more than you know. It can impact your thyroid. It can impact hormones. It can even impact posture. Think about if you're always just hunched over, or think about your stomach and your digestion. If you're always just kind of clenching, that is going to wreak havoc on your body. And so I would say that is like probably a top 3 for me, is that I just did not find coping mechanisms. And now I do have coping mechanisms, and I'm still learning. Like, I am not the person who's going to teach you how to get out of stress, because that's like just the biggest hump that I have to still get over every single day is working on that. But I just wish that I had, tried to get some coping mechanisms sooner on in life. And this also like ties into like, and what's helped me the most, and trust me, I am not getting religious. I respect everyone, but I'm very true to myself, and like this is just my opinion for me. I wish so badly like I would have given way more of my worries to God, because that's when I can find refuge and rest, and that is when I grow. But for some reason, like I just want to control everything. So I honestly will like rarely give it to him. But when I do, like I do so much better, and I'm way less stressed. So for me, like that's just something that I'm actively trying to do all the time. So whatever it is for you, find that coping mechanism that it's going to work for you for stress, and it's going to bring you rest, because I promise you, you are going to be a healthier, happier version of yourself. Okay. Another one that I regret doing is I really regret so I did this water fast, and I believe in water fasting. I really think that they can be amazing, but I did not, like, I remember at the time before I did this and I did a 4-day water fast, like I was so desperate because my bladder was hurting so bad. I've had bladder issues all my life. I've had just so like thousands of bladder infections, and that's actually not an exaggeration. And I was just in so much pain, and like my brain fog was at an all-time high, and I was just like, I just felt like I had exhausted everything, and this is one thing I hadn't tried. I'm a biohacker. I wanted to test it out. Here's where I went wrong. I like at that time, I was not getting my period when I had first started it, that fast. I wasn't getting it. But and this is also another health mistake, is not really like getting to the bottom of that. I just felt like, so like, because I had like half of my life I was anorexic, and so like ever since, just my period had never really been the same, and I wish I had chased after that more, figuring out like what I have to do. But so I've always just kind of like had a somewhat irregular period, and just thought, this is just me, And then I did and so when coming up on the fast, like I hadn't gotten my period in a while, but I still just didn't like think too much of it. And then I hadn't got my hormones like recently checked, and yet I still did it. And so the thing is afterwards, actually I had a lot way less inflammation in my bladder, and like my brain fog was lifted. I was happy. It was so good. But I wonder how much that could have screwed with my hormones, because I didn't prepare the way that I should have prepared before. I should have had my hormones checked out. I should have been, if you're going to do that, you go into it with your hormones good and strong. And like, that was not me. So I don't know, like, it's like, did that help me? Did it not? I'm sure it helped in certain ways, but that's kind of a big, question mark for me. Cause I think like going into it, you just have to have really, strong hormones. But, that does also like get into the point of like obviously a big health mistake I made was being anorexic for so long, and how this can relate to you. Like, let's say you're not anorexic, and I hope that you're not, and if you are, please get help. But losing a lot of weight super quick is terrible for you. It is so bad. And I think so many women do this thing where like, oh, I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks, like I need to drop as much weight as possible. I mean, I've heard that almost from every single woman in my life, like minus my mom. But she just has like such a great relationship, I feel like, with food in her body, but so many of us don't. And so we will crash diet. And here's the thing, like if you're going to lose weight for a vacation, all right, whatever. But like start like 6 weeks to 8 weeks out. Like just extend it, because it is so bad for your body to do that suddenly. Like crash diets are horrible for you. They wreak havoc on your hormones. It is not worth it. It's not worth it to lose those vanity pounds. It's just not. Number one, it's just not worth it to lose those vanity pounds in general, because chances are that's like a really comfortable place for your body. But, like it's another issue. I feel like you really, really do need to lose weight. I understand that too, but like crash dieting and no matter what you're going through, it's just so not worth it. Okay. Like you have no idea the problems that you can set yourself up for. So no more crash dieting. I haven't crash dieted in a really, 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 really long time. I don't diet anymore. I just, I don't care. Okay. And then lastly, the and this is my biggest regret, is how many antibiotics I have taken. I have taken anywhere from like 700 to 1,000 rounds of antibiotics, and it is, I just get like sick even saying that out loud. And I was someone, so, I was born with a very messed up bladder, and I was on antibiotics from like a baby when my gut flora was just starting to flourish. I feel like I honestly didn't even get a fighting chance. Like, I started life basically on antibiotics. And I would always have doctors tell me, this is just going to be your life. You have to take antibiotics regularly, because like, otherwise you're just going to live in an infection and pain, and that's going to be your life. And I just had that, like, I don't know why, but I really would just like bow down to these white coats, just thinking that, like it's the end all be all, like what they have to say, even when I knew better, and I just like didn't question them. And I remember even once I remember the one time I really did question them. They're like, that's fine, your next bladder infection, why don't you try something natural and see how that works out for you? And I did, and it didn't work out for me. I was still in like a whole lot of pain. So then I just like was like, okay, I'm just going to accept my fate. I always have to be taking these antibiotics. And newsflash though, you don't. Like, now I haven't taken an antibiotic in so long. I have it, dialed back, under control. Thank God. But like, I took antibiotics for bladder stuff. I took antibiotics for acne stuff. I mean, I remember I had so many times that I had strep throat as a kid that I took antibiotics for. The amount of antibiotics that I've taken, it is unbelievable. Like, my gut is just destroyed from it. And I have come a very long way, like to the point where my gut's actually like pretty strong. But I honestly feel like I'm going to be plagued by this for the rest of my life. Like, it's something that I just will never be able to let off my foot off the gas when it comes to healing my gut, because it's just so far gone. And, honestly, and even if like with my tumor, I really think, or the tumor, I should say, I really do think like, if there is one thing beyond stress that caused this, I do believe that it is antibiotics. There's just no way that you can take that many antibiotics and not have it, impact your life. And I mean, I was depressed all of my 20s, high anxiety. I mean, a lot of your like serotonin, dopamine, all that comes from the gut. And so, and I have felt I have spent so much of my life in infection. No wonder I've been so fatigued. The body is not meant to be in infection all the time. Like, that is just, you're never going to get to heal. You're never going to get to grow. That's going to even prematurely age you. So there's so much regret that I have on how many antibiotics I had taken. And at the same time, just not doing anything when I didn't know. I also just didn't know when I was younger that I should have done things to try to offset it. But the true offset is you find ways to not be on antibiotics. They give out antibiotics like it's candy. It is not right. It is not okay. There are other ways. There's so many studies that have come out that show these like natural ways to get rid of UTIs and other infections, and it's just because it's more difficult, and because doctors don't want to learn this stuff, they'll still just throw antibiotics at you. And so I just, for you, if like a doctor is always throwing antibiotics at you, you need to find the root cause. Like, please just find the root cause of what's going on. And if you have done multiple rounds of antibiotics, honestly, even like one or two, I really do feel like everyone has cleanup work to do. I really feel like, honestly, just even one round of antibiotics, you have cleanup work to do. So just don't let that slide, like really, really work on that. So thankfully, I'm like at a place now, again, I don't take antibiotics anymore, but that is something that has been huge, like has hugely impacted my life. And I'm paying the price for it. And so, but I want you to know this, like even though like I have, and it's funny, I came in and Baldo, he owns the Howdy Health Network. Like I was like, yeah, I'm talking about health mistakes. He's like, you mean like times that you had to learn, like learning opportunities? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like I always I always am reframing this. Like, I'm always like, listen, on my worst days, it gets me down and out, frustrated, so upset. But on my best days, I look myself in the mirror and I'm like, I accept you as you are. You did the best with what you could at that time. You the best with what you knew how to do. and I love you for it, and you're going to be okay. And I look at me and I tell my body and I tell my mind, like, you're strong. You're going to keep healing. And I've seen miraculous healing in my body in a lot of different ways. I've seen like such great healing. I still have a whole way to go. I really do. But I believe that I can still heal. And I believe that I'm going to be healing the rest of my life. And I do not give up, and I stay positive because I know that my body is listening to my thoughts. It is reacting to my emotions. And so I got to be strong for myself. I got to be my biggest cheerleader. And once I make a mistake now, like I know I learn from it, move on. And so I just hope that the same for you. Whatever health mistakes you have, forgive yourself, move on, learn from my mistakes. Love you so much. If you want to talk about anything, you know where to find me at the Violet Fog, violetfog.com. Thank you so much to the How Do You Health Network. I love you guys. You're the best. Have a good one.